Gεια σας, everyone, and welcome to our third case study webinar. I know you were enjoying the music that was playing now, but yeah, let's get started. Okay, so today, what we're going to do is this. The idea is to try to retrieve some stories from old notarial records, from contracts. Okay, we had talked about contracts back in June, in the previous series we had done. But today the idea is to delve deeper into this type of record and see what information can be revealed. I think it's very interesting. I think these records really give us glimpses into the past and help us contextualize and see the lives of our ancestors more vividly. Okay, so I have selected some contracts from three areas of Greece: Chios, Sparta, and Kythera. The Chios records, the Chios contracts, we had already talked about them back in June. Today, perhaps we will try to give a new perspective to how we see them. Okay, so I will be reading some excerpts and then I will be giving you some comments on these. And I think this will work out fine. All right. So the first three contracts, they are from Chios, from the village of Tholopotami. And okay, let's get started. The first one is from 1884, and it's a will contract. So let me just read you an excerpt. So Antonios Pousakis, son of Ioannis, old but sane, makes his will. Okay. Firstly, he is leaving to his wife Despina the field that he has at Stavri, a place, whole as it is with trees, which he had bought from the late Theodosios Ganounis. The field adjoins property of my wife Despina herself and Ioannis Boulazeris. Also, I'm giving to my wife the vineyard that is at Kokina Gremna, another location. Moreover, I'm leaving to the same the houses I have at Agios Panteleimonas, another location, adjoining the property of my full brother Kostis, and I'm leaving to my daughter Anthula the fields at Lagavi, another location. Okay, before commenting, let's go to the next two ones. The next one is a dowry contract from 1876, and I'm reading: As you bless the wedding at Cana of Galilee, bless our Lord Jesus Christ the dowry that Konstantinos Moniovis and his wife Lula promised to their daughter Maria. Reminder: every time a marriage was arranged in Greece, the family of the groom, of the bride, of the future bride, would give some property to the groom. Okay, so this is a contract where such an agreement is being done. So at first they were giving her a coverlet and 7 costumes and a copper kettle and a steel pan and a mirror and a pair of silver earrings and a silver ring and a Russian icon depicting the Dormition of the Mother of God. Moreover, her mother-in-law, interesting, Sofula, is giving her a silver ring in the shape of a snake. Moreover, the parents of the bride are giving her a chest made of walnut. And here's another contract for the very same Maria Moniovis, who was killed, tragically, 5 years after she got married in 1881. I'm reading the contract. After Maria, daughter of Konstantinos Moniodakis and wife of Konstantinos Mavrakis, paid the debt to death we all share, prematurely, suddenly, and unexpectedly, because of an earthquake that happened on Sunday, March 22nd, 1881, at 1:30 p.m., now, both of the mentioned relatives, Konstantinos Moniovis and Konstantinos Mavrakis, the husband, agreed to divide her property, which is defined in her dowry contract as shown in the records of the late priest Ioannis Kleimenidis on page 159. This is the dowry contract we just talked about, right? Since, because of the earthquake we mentioned before, she stayed inactive and stated that her heirs are her father, Konstantinos Moniotis, and her husband, Konstantinos Mavrakis. Now they both came to an agreement, and each of them gets what was agreed. Okay, so these three contracts from Tholopotami. Through them, we get glimpses into real people's daily lives. Okay, we can imagine the interior of their houses, what kitchenware they had. This, where is it? The copper kettle and the steel pan, right? We know what icons they would put in their house, the Russian icon, for example, where they kept their clothes, the chest made of walnut, even what rings women wore. And we learned that they had fields with trees, perhaps mastic or citrus trees, and they also had vineyards. So we also learn a lot about local economy, about the economy of the island, the economy of the village, the economy of the family, what people did for a living, what products the island produced. But sometimes these contracts connect, the little stories of our ancestors with bigger historical events. They are contextualized within larger frames, okay? And this last contract of 1881, for instance, it talks about an earthquake. And, well, as a matter of fact, there really was a very big earthquake in Chios in 1881. We know that it happened at 1:40 p.m. The contract says 1:30, so close, and caused significant damage in Chios and on the Asia Minor coast in Alatsata and Sesme. And it is estimated that about 7,866 people lost their lives. The earthquake was 7.3 magnitude. And, well, Maria Moniotis, she from Tholopotami, she was one of the victims. But, now this little piece of family history, it makes sense within a larger context. And interestingly, there was an earthquake between Chios and Samos just yesterday, and it was very big. There were two Greek kids who lost their lives, and many people, dozens of people who lost their lives in Smyrna and the surrounding area in Turkey. So, it's both earthquakes affected both countries. Anyway, so we will now move to Sparta. Before I go into the contracts, let me tell you about this book here. I've mentioned it before, but it's just a phenomenal work done by the head archivists at the GAC, the Archives Office in Sparta. Pepi Ravala wrote this, and she did an amazing job. What she did was she took the records of a notary who lived in Sparta in the 1830s, notary Chartoularis, and she read the contracts, all of them, and transcribed the contracts, all of them, and then made name indexes for all the contracts and location indexes and type of contract indexes. It's amazing. It's amazing. And the time, the effort she put into this is just unbelievable. And it's super, super interesting and helpful. You just find a name in the index, and there it is, the contract for your family. It's amazing. Anyway, so let me get to the contracts. So one of the very first cases notary Chartoularis took up when he settled in Sparta was a will. On Friday, August 4th, 1833, he opened the secret will of Nikolos Krevatas, which was sealed with black wax and had the initials of the deceased, on the front. So in the will, Nicolos Krevatas explains with detail how he wants his property to be divided, how much he owes to others, how much others owe to him. And what's very interesting, at least in my opinion, is the amount of money he donated to the church upon his death. So first of all, he gave lots of money to the Metropolitan Church in Sparta and to all the churches of Mistras, all of them, for commemorative services. And then he also chose 6 monasteries and churches, and he donated significant amounts of money to them. And this contract, it made me think of the great importance of religion and faith and the church back then. His gesture to donate all that money to the church, it on the one hand, it expresses, it shows his faith, and on the other hand, it also, we can see it as his way to impress others, to show his prestige in local society, which again proves the importance of religion. The prestige someone wants to get out of donating to the church means the church is important to the community. And he also said this in the very first sentences of this will. We read this, and I'm going to read it in Greek first and then give you the English translation. I will not comment on this right now, but later to go with something else, but it's really interesting. So he says, the very first sentence, αφήμι την συγχώρησιν διόλους και ζητώ αμοιβαίως τη συγχώρησιν παρόσον ως άνθρωπος κατά τη ή παρενόχλησα ή επίκρανα. The Greek text. And this is the katharevousa, the older Greek language. Okay, so this means, according to the Christian dead or of the beliefs of the Eastern Church, which I stand for, I give everyone my forgiveness and ask accordingly for the forgiveness of those whom as a person, as a human, I bothered or upset. No comment now, we'll get back to this later. A second contract of the same notary, 1833, Sparta. On Friday, September 1st, 1833, at 5 p.m., Anastasios Louropoulos from Anavriti, who currently lives in the town of Sparta, visits Notary Chartoularis and asks him to come to his place, where he shows him a locked box. He opened the box in front of the notary and 2 witnesses and asked him, the notary, to record everything in it. Now that box, it contained the dowry of his wife, who was the daughter of the late Zafiris Karamalis, according to the contract, who had passed. The wife had passed. So Anastasios wanted the notary himself to record what was in the box, so that his late wife's brothers would not question him. They would not ask money from him. So in the box, the notary found 2 pieces of silk fabric, 3 silk male shirts, 4 pieces of silk underwear, a traditional dress, a piece of handiwork sewed with tulle all over and flowers on the 2 ends, quote, 3 first-class gold-embroidered belts, a scarf, fur, pillows. And what I really like about this one is like all those details with which they describe the dowry. And the importance of that is that luxury was in the details, was to be found in details. So this is why he mentions that this piece of handiwork was sewed with tulle all over and flowers on the 2 ends, right? Or this is why they mention the material out of which the shirts and the underwear and everything was made of, silk. So this was a very rich, a very expensive dowry, okay? Now, in this book, this one, there are mentions to the Salvaras family. Now, this was a very, very wealthy family of Sparta back in the 1820s and 1830s and 40s. Very influential, very important. And the archives of Sparta, they have that family's family archive. Okay, it's mostly business related material and some family correspondence. So just in a parenthesis, let me read something which is really cool. Again, Pepi Gavala from Sparta, the GAG, the archives there, she has written 2 books about the Salvaras family archive. She has not transcribed all of the contracts. What she's done is she has created abstracts for every single contract, but there's still an index of names, places, everything. So again, it's easy to use and very interesting. So just let me read this really quick. So there is a letter Pepi found from 1823. 1823. That's 2 years after the revolution started. Okay. So in 1823, Dimitris Saltaferos married Anna, daughter of the late Anagnostis Salvaras. And for some reason, the Salvaras family and Saltaferos family, they were feeling very insecure in Mistras. 1823, the revolution is ongoing. So Dimitris Saltaferos sends a letter to his mother-in-law, to the widow of Anagnos Salvaras, and he presented a plan of the family's secret transportation from Mistras to Nafplio. And he also asked them, to take care and bring together his mother and his sister. But can you imagine that? A secret transportation plan, 1823? And yesterday, Pepi sent me a copy of the original, but I have to admit it was too hard. It was too hard to read. So I'm still trying to figure out everything that contract says, but it's so interesting. Okay, done with that, done with Sparta, and we will move to Kythera now. Okay, so Kythera is an island, not very small, not big. It's at the south of the Peloponnese, between the Peloponnese and Crete. Okay, so Kythera went under Venetian control after the Fourth Crusade in 1204. 1204. The Ottomans never gained control of the island. They looted it multiple times, especially Ottoman-backed pirates, but they never controlled it. Instead, Kythera remained Venetian until the dissolution of the Venetian Republic in 1797. The Republic was defeated, better word, by Napoleon. So anyway, after the dissolution of the Republic, Kythera passed to the French, Napoleon, to the Russians later, and eventually to the British. The British kept the island until 1864, and at that point, Kythera and the rest of the Eptanissa, the 7 islands, Corfu, Zakynthos, Kefalonia, Ithaki, Lefkada, Paxi, and Kythera, became part of Greece. But, well, the fact that the Ottomans never came, and the fact that the island was under a relatively, stable situation, stable authority, system and everything, means they kept very good archives, very good records, and their archives were never destroyed. So, last summer I was in Kythera, and I got this very interesting book. It's contracts from the 16th century. Okay, this one, in fact, is by a specific notary in Kythera, 1560 to 1582. I mean, that's impressive. Anyway, okay. So let me read you the. Let me read you the first contract, and then I will comment on this. So July 7th, 1565. 1565. So at some point in the past, Manolis Prineas, son of the late Michalis, had borrowed 101 sheep from his cousin, Nikolos Kaligeros. Now Manolis promises to return the sheep to his cousin on the 1st of February next, 1566. Okay, again, a contract which informs us about local economy, gives us names, family information. Okay, very interesting. But what I found really interesting, so yes, there was this long Venetian influence and control on the island, and that control, that influence left its traces. 1565, that's about 350 years after Kythera became part of the Venetian Republic, okay? That's a long time of Venetian influence, and you can see that in the text. You can see it in the words people used. So at the point where the notary says that Manolis promises to return the sheep, he uses two very interesting words. He says Manolis obligarete και premetari. These are Italian words, and they are the same for like the equivalent for obliged and promises. Obligarete, obliged. Premetari, promises. Premeto. These are I find this so interesting because it shows how cultures mixed and how we in Greece we tend to forget that in some cases we too are a melting pot, and we also have had significant influence from different civilizations and cultures, and this is a clear proof of that. A Greek family, Greek contract, Greek notary using Italian words in 1565. Okay, now second contract, 1563. Okay, 3 years earlier. On March 28th, 1563, the family of Kirana Triarchi, wife of the late Maneas Triarchis, called the local priest, Dimitrios Leftherios, to give her Holy Communion. She was dying. Feeling that her end was approaching, she told the priest that what her last will was. And then she went on and described with detail what she wanted to leave to each of her 5 children. And according to the contract, in fact, her son, Labrinos, he asked her to leave to him some space where he could build a house, and she did. Anyway, the reason why I chose this contract is this. This is a will, right? A will from 1563, Kythera. The very first sentence of the will, it says, «Αφήνει πάσης χριστιανής την τελείαν αγάπηντε και συγχώρησιν». She leaves to all Christians her full love and forgiveness. Now, remember the contract we talked about before, 1833 Sparta. It started with a very similar phrase. And the two contracts are about 300 years distant, And I was thinking, it made me think how long some traditions, mentalities, perceptions of the world, the role of religion, how long these lasted. It's impressive. The contracts are 300 years away from each other, and yet they start with the same phrasing. Even if you say this is just, it's a typical way to start a contract back then, still it was a typical way to start a contract for more than 300 years. And that's still impressive. And I've kept this one for last, and I think it's just the best of all the contracts I just talked about. It's an adoption contract from 1564. And it says, so on October 15th, 1564, Georgis Klironomos, son of the late Maneas, took a child from Bella, wife of Ioannis Sotirchos and widow of the late Alubas Kyriakis. According to the contract, Bella had this child with her late husband, and the child's name was Nikolaos Kyriakis. Now, Georgios Kleronomos promises to adopt the child as his spiritual child, his stepchild, okay? And Bella, the mother, offers her son his share from his father's property. And Kleronomos, the adopter, on the other hand, promises to treat the child as one of his own. In fact, the contract says that the adopter should give Nikolaos a share of his own property to instruct and dress him. And there is this term in the contract which is very interesting as well. If Kleronomos, the adopter, tries to get rid of the child or misbehaves, he will pay a fine. He will be subject to a fine. And if the child wants to return to his mother, and his mother accepts that, she should pay the same fine. I mean, isn't this just amazing information? All right, so this is what I want to bring up. Now, the floor is yours. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer. I'd be glad to. So yeah, and Carol will start feeding me with questions. So one thing you might want to know is where to find these books. So the books from Sparta, they can be found at the GAC, at the archives in Sparta. They are given for free, but they're in Greek. So, you may need some help reading and understanding the contracts. Jeline asks if such records can be found at the GAC. That's a very good question. So, the GAC of Sparta, for example, they have digitized some of their notarial collections, that they have put them online. They are not name indexed, but they might be able to help you. They might have an index, to guide you. So you may be able to find something like that. Now, for other areas, in Patras, for example, they have not digitized any of the contracts. So if you're interested in contracts for Patras, you need to go to Patras, to the archives, and stay there, spend some time, browsing indexes and everything that can help you get into the real contract books after. Now, about the book from Kythera, the Kythera contracts, I bought it in Kythera last summer, so I guess it can be found in Kythera. I'm not sure where else it would be available. It was published in 1999, so I'm not even sure it's still circulating, in the market. But it's really interesting that all these books were created by archivists or historians, and they are phenomenal, but they are just a tiny, tiny piece of what's really available. All the GAC offices have tremendous notarial collections, and most of them, the great majority, are not digitized, are not indexed, and that's a pity, yeah. Any other questions? Karen asks, can assistance be found through researchers? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we, in Greek Ancestry, we do offer help with notarial records, and we also offer, just guidance for free, so if you just send us an email and say, I'm interested in this area, we will be glad to reach out to the archives, the local archives, and see what's available, and we'll let you know. So yeah, absolutely. At the moment with COVID, it's not easy to visit archives, and as a matter of fact, the website of the GAC, of the archives, is down. So all their digitized collections cannot be accessed at the moment, and that's terrible. I hope they will manage to solve that soon. Celeste is asking, was it common for all villages to have notarial records? Okay, very, very interesting question. So let's put it differently. Every time you would sell something or you would buy something, every time you wanted to compose a will or a dowry, and you wanted to secure this agreement, you would need a notary. Okay, you would need to find a notary, go to the notary, and have him compose a contract. Now, where could notaries be found? They could be found in the bigger villages, the bigger towns. All right. So the question is not if all villages have notarial records. The question is, where can we find notarial records for each village? My advice would be to first of all contact the GAC, the archives, and see what they have. It was very common for people to use, or for families to use the same notary. So for example, if you trace one contract for your family in the collection of notary A, okay, it's very likely you will find contracts for the same family in the same collection, because they would prefer the notary they already knew, right? Now, what you could also do would be, the archivist would be more, what's the words? He would have more, he or she would have more special knowledge in doing this, to see where each notary was located and try to find records there for the specific area. For example, there was a notary in my Yayes village in Yeraki. Okay, there was a notary there at some point. So we can assume that all the families of the area, of the surrounding villages, would go to Yeraki to find contracts. Christy says we should provide our email address for people to send requests. Yeah, I'll just type our email address right here, but also you can go to our website, greekancestry.net, and there is a contact tab and other tools and stuff you can use. But let me just write the email here real quick. Okay, the email is here. Okay, so Carol is raising a point here. So she says, people have been told that records in Greece were destroyed. What you are presenting proves that records do exist, but it may not be easy to find them. Can you give us hope that more records will come forth in the future? Yeah, I can give you hope that will happen. In fact, tomorrow we're releasing new records, more city directory records. I think about 20,000 names just tomorrow. I think that by the end of the year, Greek Ancestry will be hosting definitely more than 500,000 records. I think we will have about 700,000 records or 800,000 records on the website. And it's not just the records we put and make searchable. It's also the archives we preserve and digitize. So what we try to do is not just find and extract names and that information, but also to save the records. And to be honest, this is why we're doing this, and this is why we're doing this right now, to give you the background, the educational background, the archival genealogical mentality, and to let you know what's available and get you interested in that. And if you get interested in that, then it will be much easier to save it. This is what happened in Sparta. We went there with Carol's many, many, many years ago. Well, not that many, but it was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. We went there out of pure genealogical interest, personal interest, right? But when we saw what was going on and when we realized the importance of those records, we said, hey, we need to do something. And this is how we spent the past 4 summers in Sparta, at the basement of the metropolis, digitizing records. I mean, this is how it works. Okay, how does a person find contracts through GAC? It was very confusing when I tried. Yeah, I can believe that, Peggy. I mean, since no, we cannot blame the archivists, and this is the problem. It would be easy to blame someone, but since the records are not digitized and are not indexed, it's very hard, even for archivists, to locate a contract. So in most cases, it needs someone to go there and spend hours or days, and that's not good, right? I mean, yes, it is good if you find stuff, but not everybody can afford it. Not everybody is interested in doing that. Not everybody has the resources, the time to do it. So it would be so much better if we could have everything digitized and indexed. And what we've seen now that more and more Greek records are available on Greek Ancestry is that when you collect lots of data, eventually you can reach much larger conclusions. You can see a much broader picture. For example, this is how we wrote the articles about the statistics articles in the summer. We found out what age people died in Laconia, or we found out which names were most common, first names and surnames in Caña. So, and this is kind of information that you can only find out if you have big data. So digitization, preservation, indexing, all of that is very, very important. So Peggy, my advice would be to contact the archives, insist if you can, reach out to them in Greek, but also I mean, I understand it's annoying, it's upsetting if you get no help. But we are at this stage right now, and we're doing our best to overcome this situation. But this is where things are, and we were talking with Carol and Georgia about this, and Georgia Kilman, striker of the Hellenic Genealogy Geek, and we were realizing how much has changed in the past year, with hundreds of thousands of Greek records have been being made available for the very first time ever, and large digitization projects running currently all over. So yeah. As Carol said, I can definitely give you some hope in the future and ask for your patience. for the present. Okay, so if there are no other questions, I'm going to leave you now. I have a fish soup to eat, which I just made before the, the presentation. Oh, wait, Dana is asking something. She says, do you think it's your generation, Greg, that is helping change things in Greece related to records? I would say that people my age realize the difficulties of research, and also there's this. This is a very interesting question, actually. I think people my age, we're so much more used to technology and digital stuff that when we realize that at the archive there's so little digitized, we freak out. We just think, is that possible? It's like, for us, I think it's like having to write a letter instead of an email, you know? Um, and I think that this will help. Quite frankly, I also think COVID will help with that because people realize more and need more this remote thing and working from home, the digital stuff, faster communication, online communication. Perhaps this will advance it will push things a bit. Um, yeah, and I really hope that more people get interested. In fact, our youth platform, Yaya and Me, it was created exactly for this reason to help to encourage younger people to get interested in their Greek heritage, Greek ancestry. And we also have an Instagram account for Yaya and Me and for Greek ancestry, but also for Yaya and Me. And in fact, today, Alexandra Kiritsi, who is our intern, she wrote and published this amazing article, this amazing story. I really suggest you go to our website now and check it out. It's very interesting about a kid who was abducted from Greece in 1943 and taken to Bulgaria. And the story is great and sad. So this kid's son now is trying to find out more about the family. Definitely check it out. Mark from Sydney, man, don't tell me you are watching me from Sydney right now. It makes you sad. I mean, I don't know, how early is it there? Providing more than names and dates. Right, Mark points out exactly about the family history revealed by such records like contracts. I definitely agree. Okay, all right. People, thank you once again. Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ for attending this and for your great questions. I think we had a very nice discussion today. I hope the contracts, this idea helped you and you learned some stuff. Next week is going to be our last case study webinar, and I think what we're going to do is a case study about like how to find family of a Greek immigrant in the States. Okay, so we will see records and work step by step to manage to retrieve the story of the immigrant and find out where he came from or she, the family, the names, everything. And I think it's going to be interesting. Okay, so thank you everyone again, and yeah, have a good one. Bye.